Hello, this is Phillip welcoming you to the 1791st edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper, Dateline the 27th of January 2011. The readers this week are Joy, Jenny, John and myself, with Robin on the controls. The items that we'll be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette, the Enfield Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Local stories include groups from across the political spectrum in meeting to fight cuts, D-Day for A&E, £4 million staff cuts in college plans, and police release EFIT of Flasher. There's one item of special news this week from Karen Looker, the Resource Centre Manager at the RNI group Action for the Blind in Judd Street. She says they have a change of opening hours at the Resource Centre in Judd Street. They will no longer be opening on Saturdays because of the low number of visitors. The new opening hours will be Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., except on Wednesday, when they will close at 4 p.m. At the end of side 2, please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578, 020-8805-6578. She's your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Joy will read the first item of local news.
Campaigners determined to fight government cutbacks in Enfield met for the first time on Saturday. A new committee for the Enfield Alliance Against the Cuts was elected at the meeting, including former leader of Enfield Council Jeff Roden as the vice-chairman and former national officer of the trade union Unite, Chris Kaufman, as the chairman. Members of a range of political groups, such as the Labour Party, the Green Party and the Public and Commercial Services Union, attended the meeting held at Broad House in 4 Street, Edmonton. The group has formed to oppose a range of cuts in funding imposed by central government. In Enfield, councillors estimate they will have to find savings of £138 million over the next 4 years, and £101 million of funding for new school buildings in the borough, which was scrapped by the Department for Education last year. Robin Jackson, the EAATC's secretary, told the meeting, "This government's biggest mistake is its arrogance in launching an assault on public spending across such a broad front, especially as it has shown time and again that its electoral promises are nothing but downright lies and misinformation. We must bring together all those whose jobs and pay, welfare and housing benefits, pensions and health care, voluntary organisations and university courses are under the axe." Following the meeting, Jeff Roden told the Advertiser, "There were lots of people, about 90, and we had good contributions from many people, including those forming similar groups in other boroughs such as Islington. We are planning to have a week of activity in February, which will all lead up to the big Trades Union Congress rally taking place on the last Saturday of March. So this will be an ongoing campaign to oppose the policies the government is putting forward. The amount of money available to Enfield Council will have a significant impact on the quality of services that can be provided, especially the changes to housing benefits. We have already got a difficult housing situation in Enfield, and now this will become worse." Mr. Jackson added, "There was a wide cross-section of political opinion, including Council Leader Doug Taylor and Edmonton MP Andy Love, from the Green Party and from Counterfire, the Students' Resistance to Cuts. Gary Heather from Islington Hands Off Our Public Services Coalition also gave the meeting the benefit of his experience in Islington."
Top London health bosses look set to rubber-stamp controversial plans to downgrade Chase Farm Hospital. A report being considered by NHS London today backs local health trust plans to remove maternity, children's and 24-hour A&E services from the North London Hospital. Few opponents to the plans expressed surprise at the news, but have hardened their resolve to challenge the plans directly with Secretary of State for Health, Andrew Lansley. Nick Dubois, Tory MP for Enfield North, said, It is no surprise that NHS London is doing what the PCT and its bureaucrats have been doing for ages, trying to push through unwelcome and unpopular proposals. It's never been in doubt that NHS London would follow the lead of the PCTs, but I'm not going to let them. In their opinion, the 4 tests have been passed, but I have made the case on behalf of Enfield GPs that the 4 tests have been failed and made representations to the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State to that effect. The debate revolves around Mr Lansley's 4 tests for NHS reform, that changes are led by GP commissioners, patients are engaged in the process, the clinical reasons are transparent, and they are consistent with current and future patient choice. The latest review was sparked in May last year when Mr Lansley called a moratorium on all NHS reforms until the 4 tests had been passed. It now falls to him to decide whether the tests have been passed in the case of Chase Farm. However, until Mr Lansley decides to get involved, an approval by NHS London is all that is needed to restart the process of moving services from Chase Farm to Barnet and North Middlesex hospitals. Richard Sumray, Chief Executive of NHS Haringey, said on Thursday, January the 20th, "If the decision is yes, we need to be ready to act straight away so we do not lose momentum." A cross-party delegation of politicians from Enfield is due to meet Mr Lansley on March the 7th to argue their case against the downgrade, with leader Councillor Doug Taylor saying this week he is determined to get answers and put an end to the uncertainty for residents. Mr Lansley visited the hospital in May after the general election and said, "I'm calling a halt to what NHS London was doing, not creating a new timetable. I can't rule out change, I can't rule out A&E closures, but we will stop forced closures." This was seen at the time as fresh hope for the future of the hospital, and that public opinion would hold sway over whether changes were made. But if Mr Lansley decides not to wade into an issue laden with rhetoric, he will open his party up to accusations they broke election promises to save Chase Farm Hospital from cuts and closures.
Staffing cuts of around £4 million are envisaged in plans to merge Southgate College. Public consultation has begun on proposals to move Southgate College to Barnet College, although its 2 main campuses are expected to remain. The colleges have been given the green light from Skills Minister John Hayes to see what support there is for the merger, which is a bid to beat funding cuts passed down from central government. There is likely to be only one principal for the new college, although there is a stated intention for both colleges to be represented equally on the Board of Governors. Staffing levels would also be reduced under the plans, with a projected combined spending on pay dropping from £30 million this year to £26 million in 2012 and 2013. In a joint statement, the colleges said, "Our proposal to merge is based on a simple idea, that we serve the same North London community and that by concentrating on what we can do best, we can improve further education provision on both Enfield and Barnet boroughs, to the benefit of our students, the community at large and the local economy. While we envisage the merger would achieve savings through reductions in the number of employees, the colleges believe this will be less than in a position where there is no merger. We are committed to reinvesting merger savings from management and back office services into frontline teaching and learning. Southgate and Barnet colleges hope the merger will result in an improvement in the curriculum, with weaker areas at each institution being pulled up by better performing courses from the other. It is hoped results will improve overall by 9% by 2013. However, low achieving courses would need to show rapid improvement or face being cut, according to the plans. Plans also include increasing links with businesses in the community to help students get jobs, while maintaining the numbers of students at about 19,000. In a statement, the principals of both colleges, David Byrne in Southgate and Marilyn Hawkins in Barnet, insisted the plans were based on the view the 2 colleges served the same community and would work better as one entity. During the consultation, community groups, schools, employers and other parties will be asked their views and, if agreed, the merger could be finalised before the start of the new academic year in September.
Police are on the hunt for a flasher who exposed himself to 2 young girls in Edmonton earlier this month. Police have released an e-fit image of a man who is said to have approached a 12-year-old girl in Wigston Close at about 8 a.m. on Thursday the 6th of January. The man called out to the girl in the street, and when she turned around, he exposed himself. The victim ran to a friend's house nearby to tell her what had happened, but the man followed her and exposed himself again to her and her friend, also aged 12. Both girls ran off. The suspect is described as white, aged between 35 and 40, and had spots on his face. He's also thought to have been wearing a wedding ring. Anyone with information is asked to call Detective Constable Janine Driver from the Major Crime Unit on 020-8345-4505.
More squatters were led away after being evicted from derelict homes along the North Circular. Bailiffs moved in early on Wednesday morning last week to clear 9 homes in New Southgate, moving on 25 squatters after getting court orders to evict them. It is part of a programme of evictions at the derelict and abandoned homes, which are due to be demolished to make way for a new housing development as part of the North Circular regeneration scheme. Police from the Enfield and Haringey Joint Roma-Romanian unit were present to offer translation services and advise on emergency accommodation, as many of the squatters were believed to be of Eastern European descent. The regeneration scheme, being led by Notting Hill Housing Trust in conjunction with Enfield Council and Transport for London, will see hundreds of new homes built and the section of the road widened to ease traffic congestion. The cleared homes around the junction with Melville Gardens have been blighted for months by squatters, with residents complaining of vandalism. One of the vacant houses burnt down in December in a fire. Neighbours told the Enfield Independent then they feared things would get worse. Ken Barnett, project director for the scheme, said eviction was a painfully slow process, but added he hoped all the squatters would be out by the end of April, if not sooner. The 9 homes cleared have now been sealed and the utilities disconnected to try to stop squatters returning. A private security firm is monitoring the properties.
A woman who has been disabled for most of her life after a bullet shattered her hip in the Ethiopian Civil War has been given a new lease of life thanks to the generosity of staff at the King's Oak Hospital in Enfield. Demen Bekele, 23, received a new hip thanks to consultant orthopaedic surgeon Professor Howard Ware and his team at the private hospital in the Ridgeway. It has ended years of chronic pain and restricted mobility after she was gunned down with her parents in Addis Ababa in 1991. The attack killed both her mother and father, orphaning her at just 4 years old, while the bullet fractured her hip and damaged a sciatic nerve in her leg, causing severe arthritis. Despite her ordeal, Demen defied the constant pain and successfully completed her school education in 2003, before training as a laboratory technician at Bethel General Hospital College. She received an honours certificate for her course in 2008. Demen was offered the position of laboratory assistant at the Addis Ababa Fistula Hospital a year later, and her hard work and dedication quickly came to the attention of medical director Gordon Williams. After learning of her past troubles, Professor Williams and his colleagues decided they would pull together financially and support her in getting a hip replacement to end her years of pain. Professor Williams turned to Professor Ware, whom he had helped train during the 1980s at Hammersmith Hospital, and having been inspired by Demen's story, Mr. Ware opted to offer her the operation for free, which successfully took place last week. The operation went well. My hip is quite sore, but I can already notice the difference, Demen told the advertiser from the hospital. My old hip was constantly in pain, and it was very difficult for me to move around. Now I can move freely, and I'm so grateful for the kindness of the King's Oak staff that I was able to have this operation for free. The pain used to bring back terrible memories of the Civil War, but now I can put that behind me and move on with my life. I'm looking forward to going home and showing my friends and colleagues and starting my new life. Professor Ware said, The cost for Demons' hip replacement would have been several £1,000s, but after hearing of the achievements she's already made, I was more than happy to offer to perform her operation for free. We wish her all the best for the future and hope that she keeps in touch to give us updates on her progress.
Almost £380,000 worth of fines for dropping litter has been collected by wardens working for Enfield Council in the past 2 years. Between February 2008, when the fixed penalty for littering was introduced in Enfield, and December last year, a total of 4,712 people have been slapped with the £80 fine. Of these, 323 people were prosecuted in court after deciding to contest the fine, where they were typically ordered to pay costs and fines which ended up totalling about £290. The council employs 4 wardens who patrol the borough in teams of 2, ready to penalise anyone caught dropping litter, such as drink cans, cigarette butts and crisp wrappers. According to a council spokesman, the wardens, who are dressed in a black uniform, do not receive any commission for issuing fines, and he added that the income from fines is poured back into the borough to help pay to keep the streets clean. He added, during this period, we installed 300 additional litter bins, 250 of which have adapted stubbing facilities for cigarettes. In total, we spend about £4.8 million every year on street cleaning. Along with their educational work, these measures have improved cleanliness, and some of the resulting efficiencies arising from street cleansing operations have been invested in a service which provides free graffiti removal for residents and businesses. Chris Bond, Enfield's Cabinet Member for Environment, added, Enfield streets are the cleanest they have been for years, and this is in part to do with a robust enforcement approach to littering. Litter is litter, whether it's cigarette butts or drink cans, and if you don't want to pay a fine, don't do the Enviro crime. The offence of littering was introduced by the Environment Protection Act 1990, and the Clean Neighbourhoods and Environment Act 2005 gave local authorities the power to issue fines for littering. The £80 fine was set by London councils.
Hospital visitors have blasted health bosses after extortionate new parking charges were brought in at Chase Farm Hospital. All-day ticket prices have soared from £4 to £10, while a stay of 4 to 6 hours will now cost patients and visitors £6 a time, under new tariffs implemented as part of the 3-month trial. The hospital in the Ridgeway was named as one of the most expensive car parks in the country by consumer watchdog Which last year, with a minimum fee of £4 for just 2 hours parking. Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital NHS Trust is now offering 20 minutes parking for free, while an hour is now £2, and 2 to 4 hours £4. Monty Meth, spokesman for the Enfield Over 50s Forum, believes the £10 charge for 6 hours parking is pocket raiding. Referring to the retiring chief executive, he said, "Is Avril Dongworth's parting gift to the people of Enfield? It seems as if they're just out to raid people's pockets. For regular patients and visitors going to the hospital, the cost of parking is going to run into a fortune." Regular car park user Jane Madden said that the new £10 charge was disgusting. She added, "My mother-in-law is terminally ill, so I spend a lot of time up at Chase Farm visiting. To jump from £4 to £10 is disgusting." The NHS Trust failed to provide a response before the Advertiser went to press.
2 violent burglars who attacked an elderly couple and ransacked their Enfield home are being hunted by police. A 79-year-old woman was pushed over and hit her head on her walking frame when 2 suspects forced their way into her Middleton Avenue home. They pulled out a knife and threatened the woman and her husband before ransacking the house in search of cash, bank cards and valuables. The men, both black and in their mid-20s, were wearing dark clothing. One had a dark quilted jacket and a grey scarf covering his face. The woman was taken to hospital after the ordeal, which happened at around 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, January the 15th. She is now recovering at home. Detective Constable David Hannaway from Enfield Police said it was a nasty and vicious attack on 2 vulnerable members of the community. He called for anyone with information to call him on 0208 345 4469.
An anti-bullying message has helped an Enfield primary school raise £750 for the NSPCC. Pupils at Hunnilands Primary School in Lovell Road wanted to raise money for other children who had been the victims of bullying or neglect. Head teacher Ralph Silverman explained, "It was part of our week-long project during National Anti-Bullying Week last November. We collected 2p coins and made a giant word spelling out together, as this was the theme of the week. Everybody came into school wearing blue on the Friday and each paid 50p. Last week, the children handed over their cheque to Ginny Donnelly, the school's organiser from the NSPCC. She said, "I loved the innovative way the children showed their support for Anti-Bullying Week. It shows what a difference a whole school community can make, coming together to show their support for the NSPCC. It was great to have the opportunity to thank the pupils personally. They should be really proud that the money raised at the school will make a difference to the lives of vulnerable and abused children."
A woman who was visiting Enfield to make arrangements following the death of her mother said she was outraged after being hit with an £80 littering fine. Linda Gray, a 50-year-old writer from Northampton, was hit with the fine earlier this month after she dropped a cigarette butt outside Enfield Town's train station. She told the Advertiser, "I just don't think it is fair. It's a huge amount of money. If only I had been aware of it, but there were no signs anywhere. Where I live, there are signs everywhere, so people know where they will be fined." Miss Gray was helping her brother Ian Thomas, who lives in Burley Road, Enfield, to sort out their mother Pamela's affairs after she died in November. "I was publicly humiliated," added Miss Gray. "The wardens were just hanging around outside the station, waiting for someone to drop litter before they pounced. Since my mother died, there has been such a lot of stuff to sort out, and it is not a particularly nice thing to have to do, so I really don't need this fine on top of that. This is just not right. I'm a visitor to Enfield, and then I get lumped with this." An Enfield Council spokesman said, "We are very sorry to hear of Miss Gray's sad loss, and we fully sympathise. However, we have to tackle littering in Enfield to help us reduce the £5 million cost to our taxpayers to provide street cleaning."
Enfield Council has won an award for its improvement in saving energy. The authority was presented with the Carbon Trust Standard in recognition of the steps it has taken to reduce its carbon footprint. Councillor Chris Bond, Cabinet Member for the Environment, said reducing our carbon footprint is not only an environmental necessity, it's financially vital while we minimise the impact of deep government cuts. By being on the front foot in reducing our carbon footprint, we will save thousands of pounds of council taxpayers' money while doing our bit to battle climate change. The council expects to save up to £31,000 a year and 198 tonnes of carbon dioxide after introducing measures such as better insulation and voltage optimisation, technology to provide the correct voltage for particular equipment.
Police have objected to attempts by a Greek restaurant in Palmer's Green to extend its late-night licence. Bosses at Pringapessa in Green Lanes have made a renewed attempt to get a licence to open until 3 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, after a bid in October last year was watered down to 2 a.m. closing. However, PC Martin Fisher from Enfield Police, and backed by Enfield Trading Standards, has argued the restaurant has not yet shown it has fulfilled commitments it made when getting a late-night licence, and has objected to the move. He has formally objected to the application to Enfield Council, adding that several licensing breaches have been spotted, including a new alarm system not being installed and staff not being given adequate training. The licensee, Andreas Dimitriou, has suggested a host of measures he would take to protect public safety and has promised not to play music loudly at night that would disturb neighbours. The application from the restaurant, formerly known as Shooters, is due to be considered by a panel of councillors today, Wednesday, who will decide whether to grant the extended licence.
A pensioner who has helped raise £5,000 for charity will celebrate his 105th birthday tomorrow. John Burrell, a resident of Springview Care Home in Crescent Road, Enfield, is a member of the Home's Charity Committee, which has been raising money for Guide Dogs for the Blind Association. In just 3 months, the committee has almost reached their £5,000 target for a new dog, raising money through cake fetes, quiz nights and sponsored walks. Cathy Dunn, the head of reception at Springview, said, "It keeps everybody going here. It gives them something to work towards." Staff and other residents at the care home will be putting on a party for the former surveyor tomorrow. He is the oldest resident at Springview, but he says he is still waiting for his second birthday card from the Queen. He received one 5 years ago on his 100th birthday. Mr. Burrell, who has lived at the care home since 2005, told the Advertiser, "Everyone from the home is coming to the party, as well as some of my other friends. No one ever expected me to get to this age. I was always the one with poor health, as I suffered from bronchitis a lot as a child. Maybe this time I'll get a different picture on my card from the Queen, perhaps in her fur coat this time." Mr. Burrell, who was born in Hackney, has always been an independent man, and he only gave up driving when he turned 100. "I love driving, but I woke up one morning and thought, what am I actually using the car for?" he added. Despite being married twice, he never had any children. John had a long and successful career as a building surveyor, starting as an apprentice and retiring from the same company as commercial manager in 1976. His experience of travel and understanding of the metric system led to them asking him to continue working during World War II. He said, "I wanted to join the RAF, but I couldn't because of my bad eyesight." Instead, he was given a job with the RAF, visiting crash sites and searching for valuable parts of aircraft that could be reused or sold.
Enfield health bosses have apologised and paid out £6 million to the family of a boy who suffered major problems because errors were made during his birth. Theo Kramer, now 8, was born in April 2002 at the Edgware Birth Centre in Edgware Community Hospital, Burnt Oak, run by Barnet and Chase Farm Hospitals Trust. However, he was left with cerebral palsy and quadriplegia after a student doctor in charge of the birth failed to spot irregularities with his heartbeat. In a statement released after the award of £6.4 million to the family at the High Court, the hospital said, "The Trust wishes to offer its sincere apologies to Theodore Kramer and his family for the injuries which resulted following his delivery at the Edgware Birth Centre. It is hoped the settlement, which provides for a regular stream of income throughout Theodore's life, will ensure he achieves his full potential." Previously, his father, Ernie, had questioned the safety of the standalone birthing centres and the way they were managed.
We've now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.